Want to take a few minutes and discuss the media information situation in a crisis. We know that in any given situation, a natural event, hurricane, bad weather, airplane strike, you've got a bunch of short-term volunteers overseas. You're going to have parents asking questions. Local media will often pick up. If it turns into a thing involving government or some kind of detention, definitely going to turn into an international media thing. You watch the news, you see those things. So we might as well plan on, if there were a situation, the media will become involved. The media could help and the media could hurt. If we plan this thing a little bit, we can kind of minimize the hurt and work on the help side of it. So we found, just like the outside contact of having a Bob around, having a spokesman for the team, who's somebody who's staying behind here in the U.S., who's a bit prepared and ready to speak on our behalf, make press releases and do those things with the media. Pick that person out, take them aside, make sure they're clear on our STS, they understand what we're saying, make sure they understand our box and they know, now we're going to this country and we've decided we'll avoid saying some of these things that might cause tension or problem. Make sure they're all clear on that so they don't make the situation worse. I would explain to them maybe the value of even teaming with the host faith-based organization. In a major event, particularly like a hostage situation or that, your host group is far better equipped with the media. They got full-time personnel who do those things. This person should be ready and willing to jump in and get some help from those people in a big situation, because the media could accidentally release information that increases your value, that makes you stay longer. And they wouldn't do it on purpose, but we've all seen what happens when they go to the sources and the sources don't talk. Well, then they usually go to the second or the third sources, and that could end up being the lady who used to keep house for the guy who mowed the yard for the, and they're getting information, and I don't know, I think he's a missionary. I don't know why he's saying aid to, and so we want to think through. It's better to have a spokesman who doesn't say no comment, but who simply repeats the message that we've been giving out, that kind of backs us up and makes that a non-issue. Valuable to be pre-prepared. I would alert my church leadership to the idea that it would be really useful in times of contingency or crisis to have one spokesman. And in a church environment, in any environment where people care about each other, but in a church, what typically happens is the email circus begins to fly. There have been a few situations recently where I send that email out to all the friends I know. Hey, pray for these guys, they're in a tough spot. And one of those is a friend of mine who's on a radio station, and the next thing you know, well, he wants all his listeners to pray, and now everybody's praying and the radio's announcing it before we even told the victim's family. And we had a family here in Canada last year who found out that their son and daughter had perished on a radio announcement that happened just that way. And the mission hadn't told them yet because they hadn't even found the plane wreckage. So they weren't going to say anything till they knew for sure. Somebody sent out a prayer thing. So church leadership, let's get on the concept that we're going to minimize how much is going out, one spokesperson, and that again should probably not be a relative. In some cases, in a hostage situation, the family will pick a nephew or somebody who's a step or two removed who can be a little less emotional to be the family spokesman, but I wouldn't have it be my mom or my dad or my brother or somebody who's really going to have a hard time not being emotional. And it wouldn't be a senior person out of our leadership at our church or sending organization either, for the same reasons as the Bob. Because when they're in front of the media and the media says, well, they say they'll let your guy go for $500,000. What do you say? As senior leader, when you say, I don't know, you somewhat destroy confidence in how much you're willing and able to do for these people. As a middle person, to say, we're discussing that and leadership's trying to figure out what to do, that comes across better. Okay? I would also remind them, the same as I did Bob, whoever my media rep for this thing is going to be, you have some other resources. If this thing gets out of hand, if this turns into more than our kids have been delayed because of a hurricane, they might want to turn to the faith-based organization that was hosting this trip, because those folks generally have full-time professional resources ready to help, who know how to use the media to generate the right kinds of response and get out the right message, and know how to avoid putting things in the media that might prolong captivity. We've even had a case or two where it was very obvious the group holding the American just wanted press coverage. So this person's really going to stay there as long as they're generating press. All right? In that case, but what's the average American response? If the press isn't covering my husband or my wife's story, it means America has forgotten. So the family continually felt they were helping by continuing to stir up the press. That person holds the record as the longest held American hostage because the family insisted on continuing to keep it in the media, and the group got 8 years of media coverage out of one kidnapping. Okay? The guy came home eventually, and I wonder how the family conversation went after that point, because he recognized several months into it, they're just doing this for the media attention. All right? Those are the main concepts on media. It's very similar to Bob. Take the person aside, prepare them, pick the right person, and make sure they have phone numbers and they know who to call if this thing gets crazy. And if you can get a church or an organization to buy into the idea that gossip won't help and that one spokesperson will, as the victim, I know I'm going to feel better knowing there's not people out there compromising my story and making me more than I am.
In this session, David has discussed three main topics: the idea of having a contact in a crisis, or the Bob concept, information security, and how to deal with the media in a crisis. Your designated media spokesperson will greatly benefit from the Guide for Working with the Media, available as a PDF resource on this DVD-ROM. In closing with this session, take time as a team to look over all your notes and handouts. Discuss any questions you may have about the material. Make sure you all are clear on who it is you have chosen to be your Bob and media spokesperson. Make sure they are clear on what their role will be should you face a crisis.